Hey guys, thanks so much and welcome to the Game Your Future podcast. I'm Daniel, and here at Game Your Future, we're all about helping gamers realize their full potential. So, to help us do that today, we have a very special guest for you. This is Nathan Baws, and Nathan is a serial entrepreneur. He's started 19 different businesses across a variety of industries and has some experience with games back in the day. So, we're going to talk with Nathan and see how you guys can learn to start your own business if you're looking to do so. So, Nathan, thank you so much and welcome. How are you?
G'day, Daniel. Good, mate. Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. So I think the first question that I'm sure people would have is, so serial entrepreneur, for those that don't know, what does that mean?
Basically, that I'm a little bit crazy or a lot crazy. So yeah, there's been a lot of businesses that I've been involved in. So in lots of different industries, from property to health shops, supplement brands, weight loss programs in Indonesia, hotels. We run a bookkeeping business. Probably one of my day-to-day businesses is a food. We manufacture pasta in Western Australia, and we have about seven different verticals that is sold through things like wholesale and retail and catering and a whole bunch of other things. So yeah, I guess as a serial entrepreneur, it's a lot of craziness going on a daily basis, 24/7, and but having a huge amount of fun, massive amount of fun. I really enjoy that space. So it's not like work when you find something you absolutely love and you're passionate about it. It's like playing computer games all day and absolutely loving it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what's interesting, I think, starting 19 businesses, right? And is that something when people hear that, is that something you work on all of them? Yeah, is when we say serial, we mean kind of in order, right? Is there 19 that you're currently working on, or just those have
No.
been over time, right?
They have been over time, yes.
Gotcha.
So yeah, that they have been from the start, and I think I've had two or three jobs in my life, and the rest of them have been just seeing opportunities, building a business. Some of those were hugely unsuccessful, and some of them, thankfully, were panned out pretty well and had some good exits from them. So, some seven-figure exits. So it's been a bit of a mix, but I think the thing with business is you're always learning. If you want to be learning, some people are a little bit closed to it, but I spend hours every day learning new stuff and new techniques and new marketing strategies, whatever it is, anything that can grow the business. So it doesn't matter. I see it as a journey, so I don't see any
Yeah.
really thing as a failure, but just more as a learning lesson that's going to get me more prepared for the next little crazy concept that I start.
Yeah, and so many powerful lessons there because, and I want to kind of dig into some of those because what I think is so powerful about, starting your own business and equating it to games, right? So a lot of our viewers enjoy video games, and I understand that you've played some games back in the day, right? So, and was there a particular genre or particular games that you enjoyed more than others?
Well, back in my day, it was a few days ago when I was a kid. So we had some pretty basic games, I guess. I guess what do we have? Donkey Kong and some sort of a Space Invaders on a little
Yep.
gadget. I remember actually swapping with my cousin a whole bunch of Smurfs because he had this computer game that I really wanted, and I thought it was very basic. It was just sort of a line moving forwards and backwards and shooting out little things. But I wanted it because I'd never seen anything like that before when it first came out, and so I swapped. I remember swapping him like 17 Smurfs for this computer game, so I was very excited to get hold of it.
Nice. Oh,
Yeah,
that's so much fun. Yeah, because
yeah,
I think one of the things that I love about video games is that how it can carry us, into the rest of our lives, right? And a lot of it comes from, I think, problem solving, right? We're playing a game because a lot of it's fun, but like we're using our mind and we're trying to like solve puzzles or obstacles to get around things. And what I think is interesting is that business, especially entrepreneurship, right, is about solving a problem for a customer, right?
right. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, solving a problem. I mean, that's what makes the best businesses. And let's face it, the world is not short of a problem or two, especially right now. So businesses are phenomenal. They are a really good way to stay engaged in solving that problem. If we weren't commercially rewarded for the effort that we put in, then that wouldn't be a very sustainable solution. So we really have to think, okay, well, we need to be rewarded. Business and entrepreneurship is all about solving problems and getting financially rewarded for it. And I guess the bigger the rewards are linked to the bigger the risk and the bigger the value that particular concept brings to society. So it's kind of a really lovely way of being appreciated for the effort that you make, and that's done in dollar terms. I guess that's the way of looking at it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's I couldn't agree more. I think it parallels so well. And so I wanted to ask, so having done so many businesses and there's a few failures, I'm sure, but like having a lot of success, and I'm sure a lot of people ask like, so what is the secret to the success, right? How do we make our own business? How do we make a successful business?
I think finding a good problem that you can solve is the starting point. Asking yourself, okay, what's the biggest problems out there? What can I bring to a solution to that as a solution? And also stepping one step back and saying, hang on a second, there's probably a lot of things that I can bring a solution to, but just because I can doesn't necessarily mean I should.
Hmm.
So you need to look at the bigger picture, the whole ecosystem of that solution, being that, is it scalable? Is it growable? Is it sustainable? Is it on trend? Asking a few little questions to ascertain whether you're investing your time in the right sort of business and really thinking about what the upside is. So I think asking the right questions at the beginning is really, really key to establishing if it's worth your time and effort. And that's a good starting point, I think, from going from job to running your own business, is just starting at where's the problem? Can I bring a solution to this? And is that a scalable, viable system? We don't, ideally, as entrepreneurs, we don't want to replace a job for a job. The
Hmm.
job being, the new job being, you're just paid for your time and you're very, very heavily involved in it. Most entrepreneurs want that scalability and that leverage and that freedom that they get for establishing that. So you don't want to be stuck to the grind. If you're moving away from something that you find a grind, you want to be more focused on okay, how do we scale? How do I leverage my time so that while I'm sleeping, the dollars can be rolling in?
Yeah, exactly right. And so when it comes to that kind of scalability, because there's different, and you mentioned like multiple different industries, are there certain ones that scale, I guess, better than others? And what would you recommend for those?
Yeah, there is, and I guess anything online is a little bit more scalable, and especially with AI now, it's becoming very user friendly for scaling. Automating is a huge aspect. Um, but within every business, there's always a way of digging down a little bit deeper and seeing, okay, how can we leverage and scale our time better? What software's out there? What leverage, how should I outsource to other team members here or overseas? So there's a bunch of different things you can do to analyze and sort of review your how much you need to be stuck to the grind. When you're starting businesses, I always find there's always that initial effort that you have to make. I haven't found a way of fully outsourcing that yet. But that's the fun bit as far as I'm concerned. The building, the creating, the ideas, scaling, like just how can we, just asking that question constantly, how can we do this? How can we do that? Here's the end result. What are my steps that I have to get there? So it's a whole bunch of fun. I love that bit.
Yeah, because taking those steps to get to where you want to go, huge. Because a lot of people are looking for that kind of call it the roadmap, right? The path to follow. Because there's so many
Yep.
people that fall, I guess, into the traps. And I guess from your perspective, having gone through it and seeing what you've seen, what are kind of the pitfalls that usually people fall into to say, like, when you're starting your own business, you're like, don't do that, or wait till later kind of things.
I think one of the most important things is not getting stuck to the day to day, which is kind of impossible not to do when you first start. You have to have a fair bit of physical presence in a business, but scaling that very very quickly, and then pulling back a little bit, and always working on the business as well as in the business.
Mm.
Absolutely essential.
And I guess for
I
those just
try.
starting out, I guess
Mm,
what do you mean by that? As far as
mm,
because for something that I've definitely heard as far as working in the business versus on the business, but for
yeah.
those that don't understand, what is the difference between the two?
Being on the tools, for example, if you're building a business in a cleaning business, for example, that's actually physically working in the business, is doing the work, is cleaning the houses. Working on the business is something that we should all strive to achieve a lot more of, time spent in that area. And that's more about, how do I grow this business? How do I step back? How can I afford to put someone else in to do the cleaning while I work on the business? Being, how can I do the marketing? How can I promote this business to a lot more people? And that marketing aspect is absolutely essential. And I think hardly anyone gets it right in that. We spend way too much time on the tools and way too little time on scaling and growth. And so I like to try and spend 80% of my day on the growth side of the business, and very very quickly work out ways that you can do that, because otherwise you're going to stay very very trapped for a very very long time, and that gets very
Gotcha.
frustrating. So
Yeah,
yeah.
because I think that's where a lot of people struggle. From my experience, from what I've seen too, is that you work in the business as far as you're doing the day-to-day work, and
Mhm.
it's like, how do I how do I get out of the rut? How do I get out to the point where I can scale and actually have other people do that? And because to kind of
Yeah.
equate it to the video game side of things, and that's one of the things that I've noticed in myself even over time, is that in gaming we have it's very clear, I guess, what the goal is, right? And you're moving towards it, and so nobody ever thinks in that terms of, like, playing in the game versus playing on the game. That's not really a thing, right? It's like, you're doing it. The only way you win the game is by playing. So when we
Right.
say about working in the business versus on, you're like, well, I'm in it, so therefore I'm winning, right?
Right.
Whereas what you're saying is like, no, we got to pull back more, which is not, I guess, not intuitive, I think, coming from a
Mm.
gamer perspective to say, oh, I need to be looking at these things differently, because I think there's so many more levers to pull, I guess, when we're talking about life versus a game, right? Because the game is very, very narrow. Even these big open world games they have now, it's still very narrow as far as what you can and versus can't do, right?
Right. Right.
So I
Unlike
think,
business, where you've
yeah,
got multiple options, there is no limit to your creativity when you bring it on board. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So understanding that we got to work on the business, right? With those kind of growth mechanisms, and you mentioned like kind of
Mhm.
automation, right? How do we leverage and scale so we don't have to be doing it all the time, right?
Correct. Yeah. Otherwise, you're going from one job to the next. You're substituting your current job 9 to 5 with a lot of security built in to this crazy concept of working for yourself with no security built in, and you're still in the same situation. So that's the last thing we want to do. The
Yeah,
whole idea about going into business for yourself is to create more leverage and freedom and time and those sort of things. So
yeah.
replacing one for the other is just not a good strategy.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. And so one of
yeah.
the things to, get more time back for yourself, right? When we say that kind of leverage, it's automating, especially automation,
Mhm.
and getting other people, right? Whether it's employees and contractors, et cetera. Uh, I guess maybe industry dependent. I'll say with a caveat is like, at what point do you automate, or at what point do you hire? Uh, yeah, and at what point does that make sense versus the people that are like, I don't want to hire people. That sounds like a hassle. I just want to be a solopreneur. Like, does
Mm.
can you get away with that, and to what point?
You can now. I mean, with AI and AI agents coming on board, and there was a lot of talk about the first business that would become a unicorn, as a solo entrepreneur, and there's a business out there that has just literally, well, it's actually two people have hit a 1.2 billion dollar business, utilizing AI. So there's more and more leverage to do that these days. And the three sort of key focuses people talk about when they're scaling is automate, delegate, eliminate. And they're the three. So automate as much as you can so that you don't have to be physically involved. Delegate as much as you can, and that can be a bit of a challenge when you're first starting because it's subject to cash flow. So that's really about getting creative about who can I get to do these pieces of the puzzle that will help me scale, and then eliminate. Well, is there anything we just outright eliminate? Does this task, and we do a lot of that sort of crazy stuff every day. We get involved in doing tasks that we just think we have to do to get there, but just asking a question, right? Is this task actually going to make me money? Is it going to shove dollars into my bank account today or tomorrow? Or can I just get rid of it and forget about it and spend my time on way more useful activities? So, yeah, they're quite
Gotcha.
useful.
Is that and when we say eliminate, delegate versus eliminate, because there's some people that are like, oh, this sounds really cool and interesting, but it's not going to help me right
Mm.
now. Like, and at what
Mhm.
point do you do you just put it on a shelf and just like, because I guess there's a lot of time that you have to focus, right, on those revenue making activities. And then you have this kind of, I'll call it a folder or a notebook somewhere that says like, oh, these are the things I'd like to do someday. Right.
Mhm.
Is that something that like a practice that you do? And as far as like, how often do you go back and look at it versus like, nope, eliminate it. It's not part of the business. It's never going to be. Don't even look at it again.
I think you have to get quite ruthless. It's like when you're tidying up your house and you haven't, you think, oh, I need that. That thing's been sitting there for 20 years. I haven't touched it, but I need it. So I think it's kind of like getting absolutely ruthless, and you have to keep saying that in your brain. Let's be ruthless here. My time is precious. It's an infinite resort, and it's yeah. Sorry, it's very very. We've only got 24 hours in a day, right?
Yeah.
And if they gave us 25 hours in a day, we'd just use it anyway, and we'd want more.
Right.
So, our time is very very limited. So, how can we spend the most amount of time doing the most productive things and start thinking along those lines? And eliminate before we delegate. So if we can eliminate it, let's get rid of it first. If it doesn't need to be on it in our mindset, cluttering our brain and slowing us down, let's get rid of it. And then if we can't eliminate it, how can we automate it or delegate it? So how can we get someone else to do it so we can keep growing the business, keep thinking about the biggest, the key aspects of the business.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly right. And the elimination piece and having that up front, right? Having that, so I know we mentioned it as far as the third focus, but it really is like do this one first because
Mm,
you don't want to automate or delegate the things that you should have eliminated, right? So,
correct. Correct. Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what's interesting to me is the both in games and in life we see that too. As far as you mentioned like declutter like a house, right? And
Mm.
it's the same thing that happens. I don't know if anybody listening has the same experience, but I had the same experience. Just very simple, silly thing was like just a pair of scissors. I was looking for a pair of scissors, and then my wife was looking for a pair of scissors. And I was like, where are the scissors? I don't know. I have 7 pairs of scissors. They're around.
Yeah.
Maybe find we'll find them, and then they're just all misplaced and in weird spots. And it's like, okay, you'll finally find one, but then they're dull, and you're like, well, these don't even work. So then you go to the next, and then you find another pair. No, these are dull too. And it's like, oh, well, I have them just in case. It's like, but you're not, you can't use them. They're dull. And so we eventually had to get to the point. She's like, all right, look, let's just throw them all away and let's
Hmm.
get one pair of scissors, and it lives in this one drawer. It doesn't move unless you use it, and you have to always put it back. So you have this little process in place now that says like this is where the scissors live. So now there's only one pair. You know they work, and you know where they are. Right?
We do fill our brains with way too much clutter otherwise, don't we? And it's just easy to
Exactly.
do. Yeah. I
So
think I think most
completely
people go
agree.
through life with the blinkers on without actually asking the questions and thinking, is this is this worth my while? Do I need
Mhm.
17 pairs of scissors around the house and 16 of those not working? So
Yep.
yeah, probably an easy question to ask, but but
Right.
most of us aren't conscious on that.
Right. So yeah, I used the silly example to be like, why would you have that many pairs of scissors? Like, but we do this all the time with
With
other things in
everything,
our life that we don't
with
even
everything,
realize,
exactly,
right?
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Too
so
easy.
have you noticed,
Yeah.
I guess for businesses, like when you're first starting out, is it even, it sounds like it's even more so, like, to put the blinders on to be like, because you can get so distracted so easily
Hmm.
in just
Hmm.
in a daily life, and I assume within business too, that it's even more important to not clutter the business, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, you don't end up with 19 businesses unless you do have that shiny itis and you know you literally and I think look it's a superpower and it's an absolute reverse of that too, whatever the opposite
A
is,
curse, yeah.
a
It's a
curse,
blessing and a
exactly.
curse, right?
It's a blessing and a curse. But it's fun and I've actually got to peace with it. You know, it's something that people say, well, why don't you just focus on one and grow grow that like crazy? And it's like, but I love this. I love
Mhm.
I love juggling, and I love the thrill of creating solutions to problems in areas that I have no idea about, but don't need to. You can actually dig deep into areas that, and it's quite challenging. Seeing, okay, can I provide a hugely valuable solution in an industry that I know very little about? And it's quite cool bringing that from one industry to the next. It's good fun.
That's
Yeah.
and you kind of hit it. You hit a hot button for us gamers too. Is like, is it fun, right? Because
Right.
one of the big things about trying to escape the 9 to 5, or at least getting past like the kind of the grind of it, is to say like, how can we make it more fun? Because
Mm.
you don't want to spend your work life like put at least a third of your day, and then the other third is sleeping. So you're like, so like 33% of your day is just, and your time is just boring or a grind or tedious or just terrible. Like, how can we make
Mm.
it fun?
So
So
true.
so if you hit that, if you so hitting that on the head, I think making sure that it's fun. And so what is it that's really helped you to make sure that when you're building these businesses that it's fun?
Yeah, good question. Actually, on my LinkedIn profile, I position myself as a dopamine business builder. So, and that is all about the fun side, enjoying it, getting into that zone of absolutely loving it. And I think
Mhm.
one of the aspects I've found is creating that fun is essential, absolutely essential. You got to love what you do. I've managed to be able to allocate, outsource, delegate all the crap that I don't like that actually deflates my boat, and just so that I focus almost 99% of my day doing stuff that I absolutely love, and then I find team members that can do that stuff that I don't love. And there's a fair bit of that side of things that I don't enjoy. So I know what I'm good at, I know what I'm passionate about, and that's where I'm going to spend my time. And if you can do it that way, you're off to absolutely, like the gaming, spending all day gaming, do something that you absolutely love. And I think some people confuse the mission and the outcome a little bit. They get a bit confused
Mhm.
about, okay, I'm supposed to have a particular purpose in life. I'm supposed to have a mission, but I feel that can always be found after you find your fun. So find your
Mm.
fun first. Find your fun first. That's a hard one to say.
Yeah.
Um, Find that fun, and then the purpose and the mission becomes a lot. You can identify that a lot easier once you're in that fun zone. Once you're really
Uh,
really passionate, the opportunities just open up. The solutions open up. There's more outcomes that are possible. And if you're in that fun dopamine like state, and we know that dopamine is stimulated through gaming, and it's also stimulated through a bunch of other things that I do on a daily basis. I have to admit, I don't do gaming anymore. My son does. But I still get my kicks out of other things. But gaming is, I suppose, another thing that we can get our dopamine and our sense of achievement, being a neurotransmitter in our brain, dopamine is fantastic for keeping us on track, keeping us motivated, improving our awareness for opportunities in business. So that's why I really focus on the dopamine side of wellness and business, bringing it into that.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
that's what's huge about it too, because having all those benefits around dopamine and understanding that gaming does that too.
Mm,
So it's just so it all it is to me is just kind of a little change in focus to be like, hey, how can we use this power of fun
mm,
and
mm.
applying it to the business? Um so if you can go, I guess maybe a little bit more into that as far as like, so what is it that you do for fun that equates to this kind of business growth?
Yeah, yeah, good question. So yeah, and I love the way that you bring the foundations of gaming into business because I think that's what it's all about and creating the fun. So dopamine, my background is actually in health. I originally studied natural medicine, and I've been doing ketogenic weight loss programs for many years, and I've just in the startup phase of a couple in Indonesia in hotels, running some weight loss programs over there. And that is all about getting our body, changing the fuel of our body. So we move away from glucose, the traditional fuel, and we utilize other cleaner, better fuels. And which is fat. We start breaking down fat tissue, and a byproduct of that is releasing ketones into our body, which makes you feel amazing. And it's part of that dopamine like state that we can go into. So keto eating, exercise is essential. The more long distance or the more in sort of long term, longer exercise like running or eventually marathons. Not that I do marathons, but even running is fantastic. Cold water therapy is fantastic. I do that every day. Go down to the beach and jump into the ocean, regardless of the temperatures, and
Wow.
that is fantastic. That is amazing for dopamine creation. And if you can stimulate that dopamine, it's that reward hormone. It's designed in our brain to once we do something productive and effective for healthy for our body, then our dopamine, our brains give us this little reward saying, hey, that was excellent. You can now feel good. And that's a repetitive cycle that we want to get into. So that healthy dopamine production. And so if we can bring that into our day on a regular basis through, as I say, exercise, healthy diet, um, music's another great
Mm.
one. Anything that's very uplifting and healthy at the same time. If we can bring those and fire those little neurotransmitters off on a daily basis, on a regular basis, then it's fantastic for the business life. It's amazing because it puts you in the right zone. It just people want to hang out with you. People want to do business with you. There's the old saying that people do business with people they like,
Mhm.
and that side of it is quite useful. Creating more
Yeah.
dopamine is amazing for opening opportunities in your business day.
Yeah, I
Mm.
completely agree. Oh, that's so much fun. Because
Mhm.
I think the dopamine side of things and just wanting to have fun is just so crucial. I think, especially in this day and age, especially just like starting your own business. Because if you don't love it, okay, I think there's a gazillion business ideas out there, but if you're not having fun, you don't love it, that's
Mm.
what leads to burnout, right? The opposite of fun is
Correct.
burnout to me in a business,
Right.
right?
100%.
So one of the other questions I have is that so we definitely want to have fun. We definitely want to make sure that we're as much as possible enjoying what we're doing. Understanding, of course, that life happens and some days are not great. All right. And there's a few businesses that maybe your business even fails.
Hmm.
Right. So then the question I have then is that like at what point or you get stuck in these kind of ruts, maybe it's a little bit negative on a day or even a whole business. How do you kind of pick yourself back up? And how do you
Yeah.
find the fun again?
Yeah. Good question. One, I've had a few mentors over the years, and one of them was a phenomenal guy who we were actually at a boot camp in Hawaii, And he took me aside and told me a story about this lady who had gone through extreme hardship. And just to tell the story briefly, she was at a ATM, automatic, cash machine, and she just got some money out. She was hit over the back of the head and dragged and had her money stolen. And she was bruised, bleeding, very, very scared. Police came, sorted it out. He found out very quickly, this mentor of mine, and he gave her a call and said, "Hey, I know you're going through a lot right now, but this is really, really important. How we deal with that drama that you've just been through. Tell me something that you got out of this. What sort of a lesson did you learn from this experience?" And she said, "No, no, no, there's no lesson. This all happened to me. I had nothing to do with it. There's no benefit. There's no lesson. What are you talking about?" So he slowly starts peeling the onion layers away and digging deeper, and she finally comes up with a lesson, and it's like, okay, my lesson is I probably should have had more awareness. I should have been more aware of my surroundings and been more tuned to what was going on. And he said, "Okay, that's an interesting one. How do you think that will help you? How's that going to benefit you in your life going forwards?" And she got very quiet and she said, "Well, actually, it's a reflection of my relationship with my children. I know I need to have more awareness around my kids and be more present for them. And that would be really, really essential for my, for the future relationship." And he did it again. He said, "Great, that's fantastic. So what was your next lesson?" And then he dug deeper and she came up with a few lessons and then he tied that to benefits. How's that going to benefit you going forwards? And then he said, "Look, if I had my magic wand here today and I was to tap it on you and say, that whole experience disappears. We're going to totally remove that mugging out of your life. That's gone. How would that make you feel?" And she said, without a moment's hesitation, she said, "No, no, I need that in my life. This is essential for me to move forwards. I needed that lesson." And so that was a real wow moment for me. It was like, holy crap, this is interesting. And it made me realize very quickly that we dictate the way we look at things, and society, and usually we talk about just going through life with blinkers on and not being consciously present, but it's amazing what we can actually do. It's amazing how much impact we can have on how we view those challenges that we've had in the past, and people have had way more extreme issues than I've ever had. But if you can look at any of those challenges that you've had, any of those setbacks, any of those, you might term them failures, but really they're just learning lessons. If you can look at those and say to yourself, okay, where is the lesson and where is the benefit, and totally change your connotations and what you're anchoring to that negativity around that past event, you can turn any event into an absolutely amazing, supportive, beneficial outcome. And it's very, very powerful when you start thinking like that.
Wow, that's yeah,
Mm,
I could tell that story was powerful because the fact that when you tie those benefits as far as what you learned and then saying like, hey, what if we took this away? It's like, no, no, no. I need that. I need that because I
mm,
understand the benefits. Like that is wow, that is really cool. That is really powerful. And
mm.
so taking what we learn from, because one of those interesting things, and we've talked on this show before about failure as a learning experience, right? And I think that's what gamers understand intuitively, right? I mean, you play
Right.
games, right? You're not perfect the first time you play. You're gonna fail. You're gonna lose. Game over. And then you just hit continue. You hit restart. It's
Right.
so built in to be like, as a gamer, it's like, no, no, no. I didn't, I got a game over. I failed. That's whatever. I'm gonna do it again until I get it right.
Perfect. Perfect.
So that adage I think is so powerful for gamers that understand that. But what I think is really cool and unique that you bring to this is to say you need to look at these negative situations that, because there's a lot of things that like, oh, well, yeah, I made a mistake. I will learn from it. But there's a lot of things that are just kind of happen that a lot of people kind of give away that control to be like, oh, well, this is just a bad thing that happened. I
Yeah.
didn't have any
So,
control over it. Therefore, I can't learn anything from it.
yes, it happened to me, not because of me. Taking that, swallowing that pill of self. Yeah, it's a system where we put ourselves and we, I guess, we protect ourselves. We
Yeah.
put our head in the sand a lot, and we say this is all happening to me. I have no influence over it. But what about if we swallow that pill of self awareness, that we become, okay, well, maybe what influences did I have on this situation, and taking that accountability. It's hard to swallow, but it's an interesting perspective, and it's accountability is quite a challenging thing to accept some of the time. But once you do, it's very hard to look back, and it's very hard to blame anyone, and taking responsibility our for our exactly where we are in life is quite a powerful step to moving on to the next thing and positioning yourself in a much better time mental
I
outlook.
completely agree because I'd say wherever you are in life now is a choice. Like you're there from
Mm.
from a set of
Mm.
consequences from your choices, right? You didn't just happen to get where you are,
Mm.
right? And
Correct.
that's something that I
Yeah.
had to come to terms with myself too, because like I felt like I was on autopilot for a long time,
Mm.
just saying like,
Mm.
well, this is how life is going, until it was finally like a few like shocking moments that are just like, wait, why am I doing this? Like, why am I
Right.
here? Why am I in this business doing this job when I could be doing something else? And then
Spot on.
that'll and I know those listening probably have these kind of realizations too, that you get this kind of moment you're like, I can start my own business. I can do my own thing. I don't have to be just stuck in a rut on autopilot and give away my control
Mm.
to some other just
Mm.
corporate entity, right? So,
Yeah, and that goes for your work, your job, and your health. A lot of people give away that power to the doctor, and
mm,
there's the thing that concerns me is that it's not always the best interests of other people. When you're allowing other people to dictate your life, there's not always your best interests that they have at heart. It might be that there's more influence from a drug company, or from, all sorts of crazy stuff out
yeah,
there. So that taking ownership and responsibility and is very, very powerful and very beneficial.
yeah. So
Mm.
I think an amazing lesson to end on. So I wanted, as we wind down this particular episode of Game Your Future, I just can't thank you enough, Nathan, for being here and just having all this amazing wisdom to share with the viewers and just looking to start their own business. So if we had to distill it down, or if I say, or if we missed anything, let me know. What's kind of the, if we had to do it almost to a sentence or two, like starting your own business, what is like, one or two takeaways that people really need to have if they're going to start their own business?
Some people say finding the passion is essential. Some people say just find where the money's at. But I just feel if you find where the money's at, it's not a long-term solution. Like finding where you're passionate about, for me, is the most important thing. So if you're transitioning from a 9 to 5 to a business, find something you really, really freaking love doing, that you do all day, every day, and you can always find the money in that later on. But don't make it too much later on, because we need to pay the bills. So finding that passion, getting into it, work out a bit of a plan how you can move very quickly from working on the business to be able to scale it to create the lifestyle that you want. I'm certainly not there yet. I'm too much involved. I mean, I love business, so I don't think I've shifted out of business, but finding where you're passionate about. I mean, I would do business 24/7. I don't because it's a love and a passion. But finding where you want to be. It might be that you want to be in a swim up bar in Tahiti, and checking your emails once a week. So structuring the lifestyle that suits you.
Yeah.
Sorry, so that's a very long-winded one sentence, but hopefully that could be a key takeaway.
Oh, that's fantastic. So it sounds like, yeah, if you go where the money is, that'll lead to the burnout. So try to find the
Mm,
passion first and find out where, what avenues yeah, you can earn an income, earn money with that passion, right? Because
perfect.
otherwise it's not a long-term play. Yeah.
Correct.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, Nathan, this has been fantastic. And so if people are interested, how can
Mm.
people, I guess, learn more, from you, about you, or connect with you?
Yeah, cool. YouTube, I've got a channel there under, I think it's under Nathan Baws. I'm pretty sure it is. I've got LinkedIn, Nathan Baws, and my website, nathanbaws.com. So if you're looking at going from job to business or business to growth, we connect about every month. It's a free thing. We just love chatting about business and business growth. So if you need any help, always happy to throw a few ideas your way.
Love it. Absolutely. So guys, definitely check out nathanballs.com or Nathan Balls LinkedIn, YouTube, especially if you're interested in starting your own business. And for those, especially if you're looking in kind of the gamer route, especially, I'm happy to help as well. So definitely check out dragonmorexp.com if you want to learn more about gamification, how you can really take your gamer skills and apply them and level up your life. So, guys, this has been so much fun. So, Nathan, thank you so much again for being here. This has been fantastic.
Awesome, Daniel. Thanks for having me, mate. It's been great.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much, Nathan. And to everybody, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, stay awesome, and I'll see you in the next one.